Hello, All Sports Tucson fans. Troy Hutchison live from Arizona Football Stadium. Arizona wins 20-17 over UCLA, and man, it was a crazy night here on the field. Grant Gunnell got his first start of the season and performed pretty highly. And well, I'm joined by Javier Morales. And Javier, what kind of night do you think Grant Gunnell had?
Well, he overall really good. Obviously, 352 yards. He started out kind of slow. Probably had the nerves. His touch on his passes a little bit off. He was overthrowing some receivers, but what's a good sign for Sumlin is as the game went on, he got better instead of got worse. As a true freshman coming in his first start, that shows that Sumlin can lean on him and be able to count on him if something were to happen to Tate again this year, as far as injuries or what have you. So just a great effort, great performance overall.
You know, what surprised me coming at the opening part of this game, 11 passes to 11 passes to 3 rushes for Arizona. They didn't try to establish the run early, and Kevin Sumlin mentioned that in his interview. He was saying that by the way UCLA was set up, it didn't call for the run. But what were your thoughts? Would you have probably tried to establish the run a little bit earlier in the game?
Well, yeah, we talked about that before the game. The way Arizona was going to win this game if they did establish a run, even if Tate was out there, because it alleviates so much pressure on the quarterback. And Arizona, they need that. They don't have a quarterback that's going to just win it with their arm. I mean, obviously today Gunnell threw for 352 yards, but he wouldn't have been able to do that if Arizona didn't get. I think there was 3 running backs that had at least 30 yards rushing, and they had big runs at different spots. Arizona wouldn't have won if they didn't have those 3 running backs have that kind of performance.
I think one key factor when you look at the running backs, you were saying three guys over 30 yards, and I can't remember the stats exactly, but Bam Smith receiving out of the backfield. He had the touchdown reception, and then he also had a big reception for 21 yards when Arizona was backed up into their own territory. He's kind of like, in a way like a J.J. Taylor, where you can use him out of the backfield as a Darren Sproles type of running back in multiple ways.
Right. He's a little more agile, I thought, than J.J. Taylor. He's not as strong as J.J. Taylor, but when he catches the ball, he's got that speed that he can distance himself from the tackler. And the 75-yard pass, that in the second half, that was just like a wake-up call for Arizona, because they had been in the first half they got in UCLA territory 6 out of the 7 times they had the ball, came away with only 2 field goals. So that touchdown pass so soon in the third quarter kind of woke up Arizona. They only scored 1 more touchdown after that, but that gave them the confidence, where in the first half it just seemed like they were in first gear, and then that took them to third gear, and then that was good enough to get them to the win.
And you know what? Looking back at the first half, I think the score was 10-6 going into halftime. I don't know if that was a defensive game or just 2 offenses trying to find their way.
Yeah, there was a lot of missed opportunities for both. I thought DTR for them, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, came out really strongly in that first possession. It looked like, oh no, here we go, a replay of what happened last week against Washington State. But after that 85-yard drive by UCLA, they only had 100 yards the rest of the half. So Arizona's defense responded. They didn't come out strong enough to stop UCLA in that first drive, but they responded. They were opportunistic, and that's the kind of defense you want. You want a defense that's going to take advantage of its opportunities when it presents itself. And I mean, 7 tackles for losses, an interception, their 9th of the year. They had 5 tackles for losses, 7 passes broken up. The defense did what it had to do. 17 points after UCLA scored 67 last year.
And you talk about the interception that came in the first half, and that was on a drive where UCLA was in Arizona territory, and I think it was a couple drives after the 85-yard touchdown drive. So that's a momentum changer right there when you're able to get that takeaway.
It was right after, like you said, they did that 85-yard drive, and I think it was 2 possessions after that. And DTR threw the ball right at Lorenzo Burns, and that was a big momentum shifter. The thing about it is Arizona had those opportunities, but they didn't cash in on it in the first half, and they finally got that touchdown in the third quarter. And Gunnell got more he completed 12 of 15 passes in the second half for 180 yards. So he really looked a lot better in the second half, I thought, than the first half. And that, again, like I said before, that's very promising.
And one telling stat for Grant Gunnell tonight, it wasn't one playmaker for Arizona. He threw the ball to 9 different receivers, whether it be running backs, receivers, tight ends. I don't think the tight end had the catch, but he was able to hurt the defense in multiple ways tonight.
Right. He was obviously aided by some good receivers. Bam, like you said, Bam Smith. He had 99 yards receiving, and the running backs. Nate Tilford had a 28-yard run out one time. Gary Brightwell had that big 4th down conversion run. Grant Gunnell himself, he had a big 3rd down, 3rd down and 7 pass from Arizona 9-yard line that got them the first down on that drive that pushed it. It looked like Castile had the touchdown, but his knee touched. But that 3rd down pass over here on this side of the end zone, that was huge. If he doesn't complete that, Arizona has to punt, and who knows what happens there with UCLA, getting the lead.
And when you look at tonight's game, another huge takeaway: 0 turnovers. A couple weeks ago against Texas Tech, they had 3 turnovers in the first half. Now you have a true freshman starting, and you walk away without any turnovers. And I think that speaks volumes not only for Gunnell, but the team around him and the confidence that they have in him.
Right. We talked about that before too. UCLA had 6 turnovers last week to score. To score the 67, 6 takeaways to score the 67 points off of. Arizona didn't give them that opportunity this week. And their offense was good that first drive, but after that it wasn't the same. They couldn't cash in on some of their possessions. So that's huge. Obviously when any team does not turn the ball over, they give themselves a chance to win.
And the linebackers tonight, Tony Fields maybe had his best game of his Arizona career. Colin Schooler had a solid game. Bandy had the pick, I believe, or no, it was Lorenzo Burns had the pick. But the 3 linebackers, we talked about them adding on to what they did the game before, and they did so, I thought, tonight.
Yeah.
Even though there's missed tackles.
Oh yeah, there was missed tackles, but I think Arizona's defense can go home tonight and know that they did what they had to do. We tend to forget that Arizona's still in only their 2nd year with Sumlin. Obviously, Marcel Yates is in his 4th year, but he's in the 2nd year of Sumlin's system. So it's still developing, and Sumlin doesn't have all his recruits yet. But for that defense to play like they did tonight after UCLA scored 67 last week shows me that they're ready to do what they have to do. They made a couple big stops after they scored, which is huge. In the past, it seemed like when Arizona's offense scored, the defense let the other team come down the field and score. That didn't happen tonight. Arizona's defense held and caused or forced UCLA to punt the ball on a couple occasions to keep that momentum, and that's huge, especially at home.
One learning lesson though tonight for Arizona: they had 10 penalties for over 70 yards. When you do that, you're not going to win very many ball games.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, they're fortunate that they got away with it in a win. If they do that on the road, like at Colorado next week, could be a different story. But it's one of those things where the film doesn't lie, and I'm sure they're going to go over that in the film study and learn from those mistakes. This wasn't an altogether pretty game for Arizona. They had some issues with converting on offense in the first half, and the defense gave up some big plays here and there. But to go 3-1 and 1-0 in the Pac-12, you can't ask for anything more right now, especially the way the Pac-12 South is so open and anybody can beat anybody else on a given night.
And you look back at the start of the season, the game up in Hawaii, it's like night and day for the defense right now.
Well, yeah, the secondary, I think, is really the main part of what's going right for Arizona's defense. So Jalen Harris has to get more of that pressure on the quarterback, and he did some of that tonight. They look like they're blitzing more. They're putting a lot more heat on the quarterback, which they didn't do against Hawaii at all. Of course, Hawaii had a quarterback that quickly threw the ball, but when they crowd the line and they show that they're gonna blitz or force some action, that's when the quarterback rushes things, and I think Arizona's done a lot better job of that in the last couple weeks, couple games.
And I think one of those things, when you look at the Hawaii game, you were saying they didn't blitz. Not only that, but they drop back into cover 3, cover 2
Right.
a lot. They're mixing up their coverages, rather it be, a hidden blitz, man coverage, double coverage. They're changing up their looks.
Right. Yeah. It's all part of. They're not going to show everything too. They're in the non-conference season. They're in the Pac-12 now, so they're going to show some different looks. They probably will show some more different things against Colorado. That's part of the development. Again, they've only played 4 games. I feel like they played like 7 or 8 games, but they've only played 4 games, and they've only played 1 Pac-12 game. So there's still a lot of football to go, and for them to be 1-0 in the Pac-12, get off on the right foot. It's a lot better going to Colorado 1-0 than 0-1 and thinking, if we don't win this game, that's it. Now they can go to Colorado and say, well, we're on the road. A win is a bonus. If we don't win, we're still 1-1. We're still right there. So it's not as much pressure, and they can go up there knowing that they can get the job done, be loose. That's when you play the best, is when you're loose and you're confident.
And then I wanted to talk about a unit that really doesn't get much love most of the time. Special teams tonight came up huge for Arizona. Luke Havasek did have that one missed kick at the beginning of the game inside 40, but like I was telling you in the press box, just take the penalty, back it up, and he's going to make it every time. Because after that, the kicks were over 40 yards and he nailed them.
Right.
And then local product Mac Aragon against Texas Tech averaged 35.5 net yards per punt. Tonight, 47.5. And I think that was one of the X factors in tonight's game.
Yeah, the only thing that he probably would have wanted to have differently is that the ball didn't go in the end zone a couple times, because those were some really booming kicks with some good rolls. They just rolled too far. That's what happened this game. It could happen in Colorado, where he kicks it and it goes down to the 3-yard line. So I mean, overall, like someone said in the post game, the special teams did overall, except for that one missed field goal, overall really good. They didn't let UCLA get a big return. They didn't let UCLA beat them on the special teams like what happened last week at Washington State. So I think all 3 phases really came through for Arizona.
And we talked about that, the special teams. Flinton for UCLA, I mean, this guy was leading the conference in all-purpose yards. And tonight, I don't think he even got anywhere close to that number. And I think that was one of the keys coming into tonight's game, and Arizona did a great job of shutting them down. What would you look to, if you were the Wildcats, to build upon headed into Colorado in a tough environment on the road, thin altitude?
It's going to be interesting to see if Tate can play, because Tate's played there before. He actually had that monster 350-some yard rushing game there that welcomed him to the college football world. It's going to be interesting to see if he's going to be healthy enough to play. That'll be, if he doesn't, that'll be Gunnell's first career start on the road against the Colorado team that beat ASU, and ASU's playing pretty well. So that it's going to be a very interesting one way or the other, because Tate will be coming back from an injury, or Gunnell will be making his first career road start. So in those situations, what you want is you want to have things happen where there's no turnovers. Your defense comes to play, your special teams like they did today. Less penalties. If they have that many penalties and a turnover here and there, then that'll make it tougher on Gunnell if he's there, or Tate. So like I told you before, the Pac-12 South is so wide open. You don't know if Arizona can go in there and win, or they can go in there and lose. You wouldn't be surprised either way.
And one key thing for that Colorado game, if Gunnell does make that start, that's 3 games that he's appeared in, and he would only have 1 more left before his redshirt eligibility would end.
Right.
So you're playing with. Yes, Grant Gunnell did well, but if you could use that red shirt, that would be huge moving forward for the program.
Right. It all depends again on Tate's health. If Tate comes back strong next week and he looks like he's fine, maybe give Gunnell 1 or 2 more games and let him watch and be ready in case something were to happen again. That gives someone somewhat bit of a luxury, because he's getting some good experience for Gunnell going into next year. So it's a win-win situation right now for someone, and it's a win-win with a 3-1 record and an opening win in Pac-12 play. So all is well right now, especially after what everybody thought about that Hawaii loss. It's a little different now. Now if they win on the road next week at Colorado, Then they have Washington coming in here ranked probably. Then it's back to the larger crowd and optimistic and people actually getting into Arizona football again.
And if they win against Colorado, I know they received one top 25 vote last week. I don't know who that coach was, but they got one vote. But going into that, if they win against Colorado, going into the Washington game, could be a potential ranked versus ranked matchup. I don't know the schedule that week. You could be possibly looking at a college game day scenario, because right now, when are they going to come to the Pac-12 if it's not going to be a ranked versus ranked game?
Right. I mean, Arizona, if they win next week, they'll be 4-1 and 2-0 in the Pac-12. Washington, they've only lost one game to Cal, so they'll. Yeah, you're right. That's one of Pac-12's few chances of getting game day. For Arizona, though, it's all that matters is getting that win and then getting some excitement back in. There was only 38,000 fans here. The excitement is not there right now for Arizona. I've lived here since, I've been following U of A football since the mid-'70s. This is as low as I've seen excitement for Arizona football, even during the Makovic years. Because Stoops came right after that. He got some great crowds here, like 58,000 a game. It's not the same right now. A lot of factors involved with, the high definition TVs, the not having to deal with the parking and all that kind of stuff. But I think if they win that game next week, that excitement will come back, and they could get close to 50,000 here against Washington.
And I was talking to Steve up in the press box. The last time I think we saw a sold-out crowd here in Arizona Stadium was that Territorial Cup game, winner takes all, going to the Pac-12 championship game. Rich Rod's, I believe, 4th year in, and after that, it's been a barren desert almost here in Tucson.
Right. I mean, the excitement level is not there. It'll be back next week if they beat Colorado. Even if they play well against Colorado and they don't come out on top, there will be some excitement for that Washington game because they'll still be 1-1 the Pac-12. They can go to a 2-1 record. That's why this game was so important for that, because it gives them some little bit of leeway there. So they took care of what they had to take care of. They did the job. Holding UCLA to only 17 points after what happened last week against Washington State, that's going to be talked about in the nation. The defense has to back it up, though. It's one game. They have to keep backing it up, because one bad performance and that negative perception comes right back.
Yeah, because now that's 2 games, and I think that's the first time in a long time that Arizona held not FCS, but Power 5 opponent to less than 20 points a game back-to-back games. I can't remember the last time they've done that.
I actually looked it up for the story I wrote. It was the last time they did it was 6 years ago when they beat UNLV and Texas San Antonio. They held them to 13 points each in those 2 games.
Okay.
There wasn't Pac-12 opponent, so I'm not quite sure when the last time that happened. We might have to go back to the 90s for that. But for them to hold Texas Tech to 14 points and UCLA to 17, are those 2 the greatest offenses in the world? No, but Arizona's defense was ranked 120th going into this game. So, give them that. Give them credit. Give Arizona's defense credit.
There's optimism defensively, finally.
Right.
I don't know how many times I walk around Tucson, and when you say Arizona defense, the last 6 years, maybe 10 years, people laugh. Right. And Arizona used to be known for defense, going back from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even into the Mike Stoops era.
Right.
And it fell off for a while, and finally you're seeing a little bit of defense out here in the desert.
Right. The thing they have to do, though, with recruiting is get some more linemen, defensive, athletic, strong defensive linemen to put some more pressure on the quarterback. If they had 4 Jalen Harrises, that would be awesome. They did. I mean, they have some good talent up front. I'm not taking it away from them, but that's where their biggest need is right now. Their secondary is, I think, tremendous. The way they're playing.
Well, thank you for joining us. We are once again here live at Arizona Football Stadium. Arizona beats UCLA tonight, 20-17. Grant Gunnell's first start, and Arizona will be back in action next weekend at Colorado. We'll be probably doing a little bit of a pregame for that. Look for that on either Wednesday or Thursday. We'll set a date for that, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was long.